Welcome back. On the newsroom calendar, it's the 5th season of the year, a time when not much happens, when it's okay to put panda bears on the front pages. Journalists call this the silly season. It's summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Governments tend to take time off. Parliaments and legislatures shut up shop. Hard news goes on holiday, and soft news can make the headlines. The Listening Post's Robin Armstrong now with a look at silly season, when news editors struggle to fill airtime and column inches.
August. For many, it's holiday time. People head to the water or the park, and the serious news agenda takes a break. Some call it the silly season.
In the West, we have the school holidays, we have the parliamentary recess in Britain, the same applies to the United States, and so there is lack of activities there.
Not a lot of news traditionally happens in August, and you could call it the silly season. I guess you could also call it a time when not much happens.
The saying goes, well, if you have to find other stories and there's less politics going on, sometimes they have to be silly stories, though that's not always the case.
But the silly season is not a concept that translates everywhere.
If history is anything to go by, it points to the opposite direction. I mean, the Middle East never ceased to surprise us. We had some of the most important development in the Middle East coming during the summer. In the Middle East, the motto perhaps is "we doze but never close."
Iran, 1953. Jerusalem, 1969. Lebanon, 2006. The temperature kept rising in August. Saddam Hussein handed the news media the story of the decade in August 1990.
From Paris to Tehran, Tel Aviv to Tokyo, there appears to be only one spot on the map that matters: the Middle East. BBC television devotes just about its entire newscast to the Gulf, not just because it's a big story, but because it's a personal one.
Good evening. The headlines at 6 o'clock. More than 120 Britons have now been seized by the Iraqis.
And the Middle East again monopolized the news agenda in the summer of 2003.
Back up! Back up!
August of 2003 in Iraq was perhaps the hottest season for the Americans, the hottest and the bloodiest confrontation with the guerrillas and the resistance inside Iraq against the American invasion.
Sometimes there is a political intent to do something when everyone's back is turned. We saw that with Saddam Hussein going into Kuwait in 1990. The Russians invaded Czechoslovakia in 1968. And in 1991, in the middle of August, hardliners tried to stage a coup against the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev when he was down in his dacha. That's perhaps the prime example of a big story happening in August because it was August.
The possible reawakening of hardline communism in Europe took not just politicians by surprise.
Указ вице-президента СССР в связи с
Заявление председателя Верховного Совета СССР.
I was in bed when I got the phone call, and I'd been planning to get up and play tennis that morning. It was August. I didn't think anything was going to happen. And I was told to rush to the office because they thought that there might be an attempted coup going on.
And this year, the former Soviet Union has again dominated the headlines with the conflict in South Ossetia.
All-out war with Russia, and they're fighting to save their country.
But surely the long, hot days are quieter on the other side of the world. In the US, perhaps.
The presidential holiday consists of an offshore cruise.
I think maybe there's less of a silly season in the US, but it is true that the political calendar comes to a halt. Congress, the Senate are not sitting. Traditionally, the president goes away on holiday. So there is something of the same feeling that the pressure is off, that people are relaxing for once in the year.
Legislators in the US and parliaments throughout Europe may not be generating news in the usual way during the summer. But political news, the unscheduled kind, still happens. History shows us US presidents sweating under the added heat of the media glare. Nixon had the worst month of his life in August 1973.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
And in 1998, Bill Clinton publicly came clean about just what occurred with a certain intern.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong.
August has also seen the obituaries page hit the front page. From Valentino stopping the traffic in 1926...
Good evening. Elvis Presley died today.
To the king of rock and roll drawing the crowds one last time in 1977.
He had been found in his bathroom, unconscious, not breathing.
August has seen some of the biggest celebrity deaths of all time. Possibly none bigger than Britain's Princess Diana.
With breaking news coverage, Princess Diana is seriously injured and 2 other people have died following a car crash in Paris.
A French minister is being quoted this by the Reuters news agency now, that Diana, Princess of Wales, has died in this accident.
The death of Princess Diana was a huge event, and I personally was in Canada on holiday, but I got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, summoning me into the headquarters of CBC. People volunteered to come back to work.
When news breaks in August, journalists know something extraordinary has occurred. And while the media waits for the next big story, there'll always be the silly ones to keep us amused.
More Global Village Voices now on the media and silly season.
August is a slow month for newspaper sales and for news, so the British tabloids do get a little bit desperate at this time of year. This year we've had a spate of UFO sightings around the country, and last year it was shark sightings, so obviously this is something that news editors think will give their sales a bit of a boost at this slow time of year.
It's actually journalists who refer to summer as the silly season. That's our in-house word for trying to find stories when there's not much going on. The fact is, actually, it's the saving season. What people don't realise is how much television news costs. For our bean counters, our bosses, these 3 months are a chance to actually spend as little money as possible. So we go running around chasing stories about the rain, the sunshine, spotted UFOs, people who find the Yeti. We'll take on almost anything at this time of year because, frankly, we're trying not to spend too much.
Finally, we spend a fair amount of airtime here at the Listening Post looking at the output of the mainstream news media, and we're not the only ones. A lot of people are beavering away in the blogosphere doing the same thing. Take John Lajoie, for instance. He's a comic based in Montreal whose work lives on the World Wide Web, and his take on the mainstream media is our Internet Video of the Week. We'll see you next time at the Listening Post.
Are you an intelligent, free-thinking individual? Do you have rational and well-researched opinions on any of the following subjects? Does your global outlook not fit into one of 2 preconceived and oversimplified categories? If so, you may have a problem. But don't worry, the solution is only 1 click away. It's called the mainstream media. If consumed on a daily basis, the mainstream media can help significantly reduce the symptoms caused by individuality and autonomy. This is John before he began consuming the mainstream media. Whether we like it or not, every aspect of our daily lives will be in some way affected by peak oil. And this is John after only 30 days of treatment. I sincerely believe that Britney Spears is not fit to have custody of her children. Don't live another day without it. The mainstream media. The mainstream media. Because you're not paid to think. We're paid to do it for you.